Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to Track from Scratch. So we got 3 people in here already. Cool. So as some of you might have noticed and some of you might not have noticed, unfortunately, I changed the stream time. So we now have a stream time at 11 a.m. For those of you that missed the stream, that's why you missed it, because we changed it. Sorry that I was supposed to post that earlier on Monday. But for some reason, I just got like too busy and I completely forgot about it until like 4 o'clock. And then I was like, oh crap, I need to do that. So I did get the video out, but it seems only like 20 people have watched it so far. So some people probably haven't heard. Is my stream glitching out for some people? Because I think I want to try refreshing this. So for some reason, it looks like the stream is really poor quality. I'm not sure why. Hopefully we don't run into issues again. I'm not really liking what we ran into last time, and hopefully we don't run into that issue again. So I'm just gonna hang out for 1 minute, make sure everything's completely functioning before I get into everything here, because if stuff's crapping out, then I'm just gonna record something, and it looks like some stuff is crapping out here. So I'm just going to record a backup of this so that we have that kind of for the recorded one. Okay, so we got it recording here, and yeah, guys, please let me know if the stream is too glitchy, because I'll try to do something to fix it. Actually, you know, there is one thing I could do, but I probably shouldn't push that button right there. Why did the stream just cut out? Uh-oh. This is not good. Already running into problems. Yeah, okay. Thank you, YouTube, for crapping out on us. We really appreciate it. Great. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to make sure this isn't like toast. Because, like, on my end, it looks like everything's dying. Yeah, it really looks like everything's dying. Guys, let me know down in the chat. You guys running into problems or not? Because, it looks like I'm really running into problems, but I'm not sure about the rest of you. Maybe it's just my internet's going slow today. No, maybe not. Okay, yeah, this is Danny. Yeah, it looks like it's going fine now. Can't tell though. Okay, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I'm not hearing anybody in the chat saying anything, so I'm just gonna assume it's working fine right now, and that's just kind of me freaking out. But I don't know, if we keep on running into issues, I'm gonna switch back to Twitch. I really don't want to, because it makes it harder for some people. But okay. So without further ado, let's get into the video for today. Once again, guys, please let me know in the chat if you're running into issues. Because if you are, it's probably all of us and not just you, because I'm seeing issues on my end. But anyway, let's get into this. So last stream, oh cool, okay, so now the chat came back for me. That's rather nice. That means something good is happening for once. So I could see this. Yeah. Hey Nick, what's up? Cool, glad to see you're here. It's awesome. So yeah, last week we decided we are going to get this synth master sound I had and convert it to an alchemy. So that's our job for today for the most part. And it's depending on how things work out, I might just go for two different sounding things altogether. Like so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy it, and then we're probably going to have a different tone for because they're 2 different synthesizers. So so if that happens to be the case and they just sound drastically different, I may go for something that sounds better in this one, because something like sometimes when you just copy a synthesizer over in terms of what it's doing, just the other synthesizer won't do it as well. Like is the case. I think I tried to do it this preset in ES2 and it didn't really sound good. So that's an example to where you just want to go for something else entirely. So we'll try to copy it, see what happens, and then from there, you know, we'll move. So this is basically composed of a couple of saws and a couple of squares. So we have 4 squares and 2 saws that are making up this synthesizer here. So we're gonna go into Alchemy and do the same thing. Now, if you're new to Alchemy, you probably popped it open and it looks like this or this, in which case you wanna make sure you go to Advanced, just because unless you just wanna go through presets, these ones are just kind of useless. So Advanced is the only one that you'll want to go for in terms of, like, you know, when you're actually designing a synthesizer. So, and wow, yeah, my screen is really not happy right now. Hopefully, I mean, it's not showing up in my preview window, but I think it's showing up in the stream, which is for the worst, but I don't know. Okay, so we have saws, and we have a saw here. And then what we'll do is we'll add a pulse. Okay, so basic. We'll just add a square here, because this one, I don't think we could actually wavetable shift this. So VA shape noise. Here we go. Oh, okay, so we can. So these are, yeah, that's right. I keep on forgetting about this one. So, so where was I? I just got lost in my own train of thought. We have to pop open SynthMaster here, because the one thing about the squares is not just a regular square. We actually, if you look here, the phase is shifted, and normally phase doesn't do all that much when you just have one, but for a pulse, if you shift the phase, it'll actually change how it's laid out. And it'll change the tone of it. So we're gonna go see if we can do the same thing here. Oscillator, phase. This one just changes the pure phase of it. So that's not gonna cut it for us. We actually need to figure out if I could shift this somehow. Of course, position, no. Speed, no. Okay, so let's actually, I'm just going to play this back while we have the Alchemy solo and see if I could figure out how to do this. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. I needed to use a symmetry. It doesn't show anything that we're doing here, but it basically moves that, so instead of having equal amounts on either side of the pulse, it kind of moves it over. So what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to this oscillator here, and just kind of figure out what the tone is like. Turn off that layer. So first of all, it's going to be an octave lower. So we'll get our coarse tuning and drop it by 12, and then we'll go back to this one. So we're getting closer. I'm going to mess with the symmetry, see if I can get a better sound. That's pretty close, actually. So this is going to turn out rather well, I imagine. Now what we need to do is figure out how we could put this into stereo. Excuse me for not being too good at this, but what we need to do is get the detune so that it's stereo panned and not just in mono. So let me increase the number here. So that increases the number of them. So we have 4. This one has 4 as well. Now I just need to figure out here. There's got to be some way. Volume, pan, coarse, tuning, position, speed, key scale, continuous weight filter, cutoff resonance drive. Come on. Global, pan. You know what we'll probably do is we'll probably have to have one pan hard left and one pan hard right. Because I'm actually not seeing just a nice stereo knob. We'll try. Yeah, let me turn on the volume here, the oscillator, and this one. Oscillator, noise, sync. Yeah, normally you'd be able to do some sort of resonance, or not resonance. Why did I say resonance? Some sort of volume pulse saw, pulse saw, sine complex. Yeah, because normally I'd be able to just drop this in stereo. I don't think. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. So that means we're just gonna have to do that. So we'll get 2 voices here, pan them hard left, and then we'll get this same. We'll basically copy and paste this. Actually, I should be. Whoops, that was the wrong button. Okay, I've never seen this before. That's cool. What I wanted to do was just copy this. So I don't know if I could copy source, paste source, and I think it did do the same thing here. Now we just need to pan hard right and then compared to this one, now this is where you're going to see an interesting difference. So this one sounds, first of all, this one sounds brighter, and it also sounds, it almost sounds like it's full, like left and right, whereas this one, even though I made it full left and right, actually kind of sounds like it's left, right, and in the middle. And then back. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to mess with these, and we'll do it one at a time. I probably just need to. So that helps a little bit, but still it doesn't really sound fully stereo. It's kind of like pan left and right. It kind of sounds like it's still stuck in the middle a little, which bugs me a lot. So what I think I might be able to do actually here is if I get the position and change the position of one side, it should sound more stereo. That's kind of the case. It is kind of working. And the reason that kind of works is because let's say you have, 2 saws. I can't do that with my hands, but you have 2 waveforms that are exactly the same. And if they start at the same time for both left and right, then it'll kind of sound like it's in the middle. But if you shift one off, this is kind of like doing the one thing that I do rather often, which is I'll get a sample delay, and I'll just shift one side by just like, I don't know, some like 300 or something, 300 samples. And then what I'll do is it'll sound like bigger stereo. So that's kind of what we're doing here by just playing with the position. But instead of actually changing the actual time delay between the two, we're just changing the waveform position. So like instead of starting from this spot here, we'd start from here. I don't know. Maybe we could try messing with speed on this side. Yeah, it doesn't do anything at all. Pan, chorus, tune. I'm still like thinking that there should be like some sort of, stereo width that we should be able to mess with, but I'm not seeing it. Unison, number, detune, phase is on random. Yeah, sorry guys, it's just I don't see there being a stereo thing here. That's why, like, that's one of the reasons I like SynthMaster so much, because it just has that nice, like, you could just increase the stereo or decrease the stereo instead of doing weird things like hard panning left and right, because then you just kind of end up with some slightly weirder things going on. So pretty much the same, except for the fact that we obviously have the difference in tone for the square waveform. Now what I could do is I could try a different pulse here. I don't know if this is gonna work though. We'll just try some, just in case. Turn off this. Oh, I still have the saw on. Oops. Yeah. I think that's more what we want, actually. Let me put this dead center. So that, or oh, so which one are we on? We're on Pulse DC, or that, or you know, we're just gonna go with the regular square. Yeah, because it just works better. Oh, there's more squares. There we go. I like this one better. Okay, we'll go with this one. So then we can just copy this here. Copy source. Paste source. And then pan this one to the right. That's a lot better. Okay, so I like that a lot better. And then we'll go back to this one here. So we had two other things. First one was this. We had just this nice little saw on top. If I solo the right track. And then, so doing that is just, you know, this saw that we had on before. And I don't think I put a filter on this. High cut. Nope, I didn't put a filter on this. So that's pretty darn close. And then the last thing we need to do is go to D here and change this to, you know what, I don't think we have white noise unless we load a white noise sample. Noisy hum. Yeah, so we're gonna import audio, and we should just be able to type noise here. Search. Noise, 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 noise. There's white noise. White noise. Import. There we go. And then what we're going to do with this white noise is get a high pass filter. We'll just get the SVF, because why not? To get that kind of, if we enable everything on here. And then now we have this one. So now the difference just seems to be a matter of distortion and EQ. So we'll do that. We'll drop an EQ on here. And this is the one big spot that's different. I think. So we'll listen. And then it is also a lot harsher here. But I think that's actually just a characteristic we'll have to deal with. And then for the final bit, now we just have to basically go and choose a distortion unit to put on here. So I think I need distortion 2 because it's got a lot rougher distortions. So we'll try this. So it's just a matter of fiddling with each of the various knobs until you get a tone that you like. Tone. I think like just recently I talked about how tone is like this word that you could use for basically anything when it comes to audio stuff. So yeah, this one does sound a lot. Here, we'll try to get this one, do a wider cut in the high end. I think what I need to do is I need to turn down that saw that we had in here. So, let's solo the saw. Man, it's not in stereo either, which is annoying. That's part of the problem, I think. Yep. I just wish there was a stereo pan that we could just like turn up the knob or something. But I don't see that happening. Which really stinks. I don't know why they wouldn't put that in this synthesizer. I guess maybe I'm just like looking in the wrong spot, because you should have number of partials per soft, parallel, sine complex, sine I don't know. I don't know what how to work with additive stuff, so I was just kind of clicking around there, hoping that something happens. Oh, cool. Also, there is quality up here that I didn't realize until just now. We're gonna turn that on to ultra because I can spare. And then back to what we were doing before, turning down the volume on this. There we go. So this one, the one that we recreated here, does still sound like thicker. But I don't think that's altogether a bad thing. So I think we'll just stick with this for now and not play around anymore. But you kind of see what I'm talking about when whenever I say synths have different sounds. We've done pretty much the exact same thing between the two synths, and still we're not getting the exact same sound. Now, arguably, I have a different distortion unit on here, so that's what's causing a lot of changes as well. But that's the only difference there. The distortion unit I have, I did a weird thing. This is a very unique distortion unit in terms of what we've done with it. We could get the regular distortion here and try to like mimic the same thing, but it'd be pretty difficult just because if you notice here, this one has like points and we could do like a weird thing here, but we can't do that as much with this one, so we're kind of stuck. But no biggie. Still sounds pretty darn close. I think it's close enough to the point where, you know, we could totally keep it and we'll be fine. Excuse me for a minute while I check to see if the stream... Okay, so it looks like the stream's doing a lot better now. And it's not spazzing out anymore, which is nice. I don't know if that was just my internet, but it's gone now. So yeah. Hello, what's up? Glad to see you could make it. And yes, I've been getting your comments saying hi and stuff. So okay, so now that we're pretty much done with that, we could just, you know what, we'll do this. Good for chords is this one. Oh no, wait, we do have a compressor on this one already, so we don't have to. We could just let's take a listen and see how this looks. Now, this one is way too full, so what we're gonna have to do is do that. I still like the tone of this one better because it sounds more... I don't know how to say it. It sounds brighter. This one kind of sounds... warmer. And I like the brighter one right now, but... So now... yeah, we'll just turn down the volume for now, see if we can balance it in. Okay, so now we can delete this. Delete. Sweet. And we'll save here, so that stuff doesn't spaz out and kick us in the butt later. And what do we have for now? Because I know it's been a while since we kind of played it from the beginning. So just to kind of figure out what to work on next. Because that was the one thing that I had planned for today, was remaking this. But now that we're done with that, you get rid of that. And I'm not quite sure where to tackle next. If you guys have suggestions, listening back to this, if you guys have suggestions as to where you'd like me to pounce on next, feel free to throw them in the comments or the chat. Otherwise, if you don't care, then I'll just figure out something to do. Because there's plenty to do. It's just a matter of choosing which thing to do next. So I'm going to play this back, and if you guys hear a spot that you think I should tackle, feel free to just drop it in the chat. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing off the bat is there's a drastic change in tone from here to here. And it's to the point to where it's very disturbing to me. So the first thing we need to do is grab this EQ and cut that. Now, actually, alternatively, we could just pull this up. Probably about there is good. Because what that does is it's way too full right now. And it's muddy. So that's that. Now I think what we need to do is pop up an ES2 here. Oh, we have a sign? No. So I'm gonna balance it away from this this triangle a little. So it just kind of makes it brighter and clearer. So. So that does a better job. Now the other thing is this bright synthesizer that we just made. We're having little issues here with the transition. It sounds like it's too much. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, so the problem is with our global sources here, the saw and the white noise are in mono. Well, the white noise not so much. It's kind of in stereo, which is weird. Why is the white noise? Oh, because it's the sample. That's right. So because the sample is in stereo, it's kind of in stereo. But the saw is in mono, and that's causing us problems. So voices mode. You gotta be kidding me. There's gotta be some way. I'm gonna look this up. Because there's gotta be some way. Come on. There's got to be some way to make a oscillator. In stereo, and this is actually really killing the sound, so that's the reason I'm bothering to look it up. Here we go. Stereo width. Stereo button engaged. To spread unison oscillators across the stereo, choose unison in the pan pop-up menu and adjust the pan knob. So unison in the pan pop-up menu. So I would imagine we go to one of these, and there's got to be a pan pop-up menu. Position pan. So filter, noise, saw, number, unison. Because like normally it's just like where unison is. Finding this gives really weak stereo spreading, and using the odd even option works much better. Drat. Odd even. Key scale, we don't care about. Loop mode, continuous, yeah. Wait, don't want to wait. Filter, no. Send, wait. Filter 1, filter 2. I seriously have to be missing something right now because let's pop this down. This isn't, no, it's not gonna help at all. Oh goodness, morph sources pan. No, that's the. It's kind of like a simple version. Global voices mode number. Priority newest, yeah. Rate time. You gotta be kidding me. Drive cutoff. Oh, okay. I'll just do the roundabout way of doing it, which is not the way I like to do because it can cause phasing a lot easier. Key scale loop mode. Yeah, this is beyond me as to why it's doing this. Oh well, so we'll just do delay, sample delay, and then delay the right side by like 300 or so. So it kind of spreads it out a bit more, but we'll try to see what's going on now. So now it doesn't sound dead center, so I'll turn off that delay and listen. I should unmute myself first. So So it kind of goes from being like kind of like in the middle and a little bit in the stereo to being a lot more stereo spread. So I mean, this isn't the best way to do that, because if you could tell, what it kind of does is it makes the sound like it's left heavy. So it's kind of panned to the left a little. That's why I don't like using this, because it kind of makes things feel unbalanced. But that's what we're going to be stuck with, because for the life of me, I have no idea why, but I cannot figure out how to get Alchemy to just have more stereo pan. I mean, no, really there's no way I could figure out how to do it right now. And I don't want to just spend forever trying to figure this out. I'd rather do it off camera, figure it out, and then come back and fix that. But it's weird, because you'd think that they have that here. Tune pan O? No, that's not the right pan. But main additive spectacle. Maybe it's down here somewhere, but I'm not gonna look right now, because I'm not feeling too happy about Alchemy right now. It's making me upset. So yeah, without further ado, let's so we're kind of getting better, making the transition a little better here. And I don't mean actual transition, by the way. When I say transition, I mean just like making it so they kind of sound like they're part of the same song. Now, one of the things I could do instead is we'll get the lead here, and we're going to create a track stack, and we'll make it a summing stack. And then I'm going to really quickly add just a low pass filter. Just kind of smooth things off. And at the same time, we'll also get rid of some of these. That part that, if you think about it, you know, we really don't want this synth to make this sort of sound. So I'm going to cut this, but not all the way like I was doing before, to get rid of that one problem spot that I ended up resolving by going like that. I just want to cut this a bit. And then I think we have a spot around here as well, if I'm in the loop. Okay, so that's kind of what we need to get rid of that ringing sound. Now we want to bring up the brightness, but we don't want it, because this kind of sounds thin. So if we just bring up the brightness by pulling off this, we actually won't get what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is the brightness around here. So instead of doing a cut here with just a low pass, what we'll do instead was we'll use the shelf to just shelf a little. And then we'll probably just roll off a little bit of the highs with this. So that's close, but one of the things that's starting to conflict now is this really bright synthesizer we have. So I think we just added no, we didn't actually add a boost. So one of the things you want to consider when you're actually doing EQs is if you like normalize it, what are you really doing? So you kind of get like, you take the average of what your EQ is, and you could tell I'm actually doing a cut here, a boost here, and then a small cut there, and then a boost here. So that's kind of what I'm really doing with the EQ. So if I pull this down, then you can kind of see. that's kind of what I'm actually doing. So, but at the same time, that's one of the reasons that I don't think I talk about this that much, but you got to be careful with how much you're doing stuff like this, because you could tell this is entirely cut everywhere. So if I normalize it to here, then we're doing a lot more subtle cuts and boosts. So the problem fundamentally with this synthesizer was actually that I had it too loud, not necessarily that I needed to EQ it a lot, because it looks like, oh, that's a lot of EQ, so I needed to fix that. Not really. If you normalize it, then it's not that much of an EQ. It's very subtle. And realistically, what I just did was I just turned down the volume by 5 dB. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you don't actually want to EQ, you just want to turn on the volume, which is the thing that I was noticing about this, because it's pretty much just overpowering a lot of stuff right now. So I'm kind of gonna undo some stuff here. So I'm just gonna roll that off a tiny bit just to get off that sizzliness that it has. And I think what I'll do with this one is I'll drop an EQ right here. I'll make it a linear phase just for the heck of it. And I'll boost right there. So that kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. And then what should we do for this one? Because I know there's some ringing over here that I'm not liking. So it does kind of sound like we just cut something out of there, and it thins it out in a way. But this is one of the cases where you make a decision based on your whole mix. So you're like, okay, so I'm cutting it out, and by itself, it doesn't sound all that amazing now. Like it kind of sounds better by itself when you have this like that. Because you kind of get this weird, like it's missing something sort of sound when you're doing that. But in terms of the whole mix, this might actually be what we need. Yeah, that kind of helped put it into the right spot more. And then actually, we might be able to take the high cut off now. Yeah, we could actually like take it off. So now one of the things I wish I could do is A/B what all those changes really did to the EQ. But mostly what it did is it took our lead and it thinned it out without changing the tone that much. So actually, you know what? It kind of changed the tone as well, but that's beside the point. It thinned it out without making it sound super thin is basically what I'm trying to say. So like we got rid of the excess garbage that we really didn't need in these sounds. And in the case of this one, this one's like really smooth right here. So what we just wanted to do is boost this part over here to kind of make it brighter. So it's pretty darn subtle, but in terms of the mix, it makes a difference. And then this one, we just basically... we sliced out some stuff to make it sound better. And then on top, of course, we have this one that... that gets rid of all those mids that really we don't need. Those are actually some pretty bad mids, and you'd want to keep those out of there. Now that changes if you're doing like a big room or electro house drop, then you'd want to have your lead so that it does have a lot of stuff like that, because then it kind of fills out stuff. But in this case, or like trance or progressive house, you'll find that typically you actually like your top lead is going to be thinned out to the point to where like it doesn't sound like really thin by itself, but it gets rid of all that extra stuff in the lows and mids that you really don't need. So the one thing I just want to ward everyone away from is don't just pull this up to like here to get rid of these two spots, because then it thins it out way too much. That's this kind of sound you get. But I mean, even if that's overkill, you'd think, oh no, I wouldn't do it that much. You do it like that much. That's kind of like the natural spot to put it, but really that thins it out too much. Watch what happens when I open this back up here. Let me mute myself. So what we have is we have just enough information in this area so that it kind of feels like it's still reaching out there, and it's not like we chopped off everything, but instead it just kind of like balances it to where it really belongs, because we don't need a lot here, but we need just some to give it to where it doesn't sound like it's just everything past this point or something. So Nick Martin says, it's amazing how you can decide so precisely what you need in the sound and what you don't with those EQs. Yeah, like I did actually a Skype session with Nick Martin, and that was one of the things that I was talking about with him. It's like when you first get started with EQ, it's going to be really hard to just pick up, immediately where do I need to EQ and how much do I need to EQ it. In fact, you're going to be looking at the EQs and you're going to be like, okay, so I know that, when I boost the high end with the shelf, it sounds brighter, but I can't really tell the difference between this and this. I could just tell with like that and that and that. There's like you're not quite as sensitive to it, but really it's just something like what's a good example? Let's say if it's the first time in your life that you've ever eaten pizza, and then a week later someone gives you pizza from a different company, you're gonna say, yeah, this is like it's the same. I mean, I've only had pizza twice in my life, but it tasted the same as last time. But when you go in and you start having like pizza every single week, then you'll get pizza from a different company and you'll be like, this tastes so much different, and I could really tell the difference. So it's kind of like that. It's just something that the only way you'll get a lot better at it and being able to do this is just by using it over and over again and really like trying to pay attention to the difference. Trying to pay attention to the difference is something that will speed up the process, but you could actually just eventually you'll develop a better ear for it, even if you're not trying so much. But if you're like deliberately trying to like hear the difference between things like that, my strongest suggestion is don't try to find the difference between this and this when you're just getting started. Find the difference between this and this and this and this. So kind of like turn things on and off to A-B. That's one of the fastest ways you'll pick up EQ if you A-B things, as opposed to just going like, that and then sliding it up to here. Because what happens is your ear gradually responds as you're moving it, and it kind of starts to not hear that you're changing it because it's just a gradual change. So your ear is kind of like adjusting opposite to the sort of thing you're doing in the EQ. So it's a lot harder to tell than if you just have it like this and then turn it off and then turn it back on. So yeah, there's tons of ways to like tune your ears for things, but it's kind of like really you have to find the way that works best for you. So okay, so where were we? Okay, so now what I kind of want to do is I want to add another layer to the lead. So we have our main bright sound, and then we have our kind of smooth sound. And now what I want is I want to kind of like round plucky sound. So there's a few ways we could do this. What we should you know what, we'll do something. I'm just gonna duplicate this so that I have the same reverbs, and then we're gonna get same reverb, same compression. I'm going to reset the EQ, recall default, and then I'm gonna go. We're just gonna go to the analog saw initialized. So copy this here. Whoops. Wrong button. There we go. And now what we'll just do is get a triangle and make it have a rather quick attack, but not to the point where it's clicking. So we don't want that click, so we'll just... That's just enough, and then we're going to take the... did I already pull the sustain down without telling you guys? Take the sustain, bring it all the way down, and take the decay. So one of the things you could do is you could judge how much punch you have right now by doing this. And then what you do is you take the sustain and pull it back up. I'm going to make the attack a little bit longer. And then we're going to increase the release so it has a tail. And then last but not least, we're going to disable the envelope affecting the filter, and then we're just going to turn the filter down. So because this bright one does have a little bit of pluck to it, but it's more like a resonant pluck, and resonant plucks are not very punchy. They're actually much more smooth. And if you have resonance on a plucky sound, it actually smooths it out more than it helps. But it kind of sounds plucky because we have the resonance on. But like dynamically, it doesn't. Dynamically, as in terms of volume, it actually doesn't really have much punch. So we're adding this to it. That's just basically, oh no wait, I have a delay on here. I think I'll turn off the delay. Of course, I don't know if that actually turns it off. Okay, so it's probably the space designer I have on here. This is one of the things that bugs me about Logic. Oh, pff. Shoot me now. I was on the wrong stinking track. But what I was gonna complain about is sometimes if you actually mute these in Logic, it doesn't turn them off. And I don't know why, but that's sometimes the case. So this is what I want. There we go. Okay, so now in terms of lead here, this is what we've done. I'm gonna have it off first and then turn it back on, and you should be able to tell just a little bit more punch is added. If you hear anything else, then that means it's too loud. So, my dear friends, this brings up the question: would you do this or would you compress? And it's actually a interesting thing to know when you should add a synthesizer underneath that has punch and when you should compress. Now, this lead, like I said, it was already kind of smooth and it didn't have much much dynamics to it. This one right here. I mean, it has that really high-end sort of attack, and that sounds nice and all, but what I wanted a nice punch to it. And what we could do is we could, arguably, the EQ that we did to this whole thing, it does have that low-end punch, but it also has the sort of ring that you get from a square, and that does not bode well with compression because you have too much tail, kind of. So that's why I didn't decide to compress it. Now I could have used multi-band compression and probably been able to do it better, but not better than this, but better than just like regular compression. But still, that would have been a lot more to work with and a lot more trouble than it's worth to get a sound that sounds, you know, just as good as when I add this one to the mix. So basically, as much as I hate to say this, it's like if you listen to the sound and you think, oh, if I add compression to this, it'll sound better. Then that means, you know, it's probably time to compress. But otherwise, if you're like, this sound doesn't have enough punch, it needs more punch, then that usually means you want to add another synthesizer to it. So it's kind of like that decision, does this synth sound good, but you just need to add some compression on it to make it have a little bit more attack? Or does it not have enough punch and you need to add another punch to it with something else? So it's looking back on this, if you like actually get to the point to where you're really you could really tell which one to use, then you'll look back on this and say, yeah, I know totally what he means. It's like that's the best way to describe it. But like if you're kind of unfamiliar with it, then it's gonna be harder to pick up at first, and that kind of sounds like I'm just saying, you know, if it needs punch, or if it needs compression, add compression. If it needs another synth, add another synth. It sounds like I'm just saying that, but you know, keep that in the back of your mind while you're listening for these things, and then you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about in the long run. So in terms of the mix, what is what we just added sound like? So now we have the ring from this one right around here. The ring right there and this pluck are conflicting in the mix. So take a listen. And I'm going to turn this off so you can kind of see what I did. I did a little bit too much of a cut there, but... So it's just a little bit of conflict that you get between the two. So, and that was probably a very subtle EQ decision that I made there. And it probably could have been just as good off without making that decision. But okay, what do we have in terms of one and the other? I think I have too much tail on this. And then finally what we're going to do with this is we're going to do our last bit of EQ on this one. And that's our little triangle that we added. Go away. I think somewhere around here it's a little bit too much. Try that. Right there. And now I can actually turn it back up. And one quick tip, if you're unsure what level a track needs to be at in terms of volume, my strong suggestion is if you think it's okay, then turn the volume all the way down and then turn it back up. If you get to the point where you're like, Okay, I think it sounds good now, and you're in the same spot as it was before, that means you had a good volume before, and you didn't really lose anything. If, however, you go up, and as you're turning it up, you're turning it you end at a different volume level, that usually means that your volume level was wrong, and you kind of need to do it. So one of the things that I'll do sometimes is I'll accidentally hit hit Alt and click the volume fader, and it'll reset my volume, and I'm like, oh no, I had it at the perfect spot, and now I won't be able to get it back. But then I realize, oh wait, if it was at the perfect spot, then that means I should just be able to find that perfect spot again, because I was the one that put that perfect spot there. So now it is a little bit of a hassle to find it sometimes, especially if you have like a track that spans through a quieter region and a louder region, and you balanced it perfectly between the two. Then it's a little bit harder because you kind of have to go back and forth between sections. But otherwise, it should just be relatively easy. So now what we need is this one needs to have. Okay, so now we've we done something to it. So you notice that we have an EQ and then a distortion unit. Now I'm going to add another EQ. This one's actually going to be the parametric EQ that I use a lot for when I want kind of like a harmonic EQ. And that's what I'm gonna be using for this. But I'm actually adding another EQ instead of going back to this first one because of order of plugins, and it's actually pretty important here. So this is our order of plugins. We have the EQ, then we have the distortion, and then I'm adding another EQ after it. And the reason I'm doing this is because if I just EQ in here, it'll actually change the way that the distortion distorts. It won't change the overall final EQ. So that's why I am adding another one. And then I just chose this EQ because I like the tone and I know that it's going to be good for what I need. Somebody sent me a message, which is kind of funny. Oh, okay. Because I was like, it's kind of funny that someone sent me a message while I'm streaming because they could just drop it in the chat. It was someone else that I've been coordinating with. Okay, so anyway, we have... Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just boosting this area, so I'm not going to play too much with this. Or... that shouldn't have anything, theoretically. So those ones I don't want to mess with that much. And then I should be able to pull this up. And now in the mix, so I really like the tone now. The tone is great. If I turn off this EQ, it won't have as good tone. Now, the final thing that we're going to do to this synthesizer is we're going to add another EQ. So this is an example. A lot of people say, oh, you should only have one EQ, or oh, why do pros have multiple EQs when all the tutorials say you should only have one EQ? The reason the tutorials say only have one EQ is because a lot of people are saying only have one EQ because if you have a whole ton, that means you're just EQing too much, you're doing it wrong. And that's basically what they're trying to get at. They're trying to say, don't just EQ till your brain hurts. You need to have a reason that you're choosing. Like, I have 3 different EQs on here. They're 3 different EQ plugins, and they're all there for a particular purpose. This is our pre-EQ for how the EQ is going to affect the distortion. Then after the distortion, we have the overtone GEQ, which is going to give us this brightness and the tone in the high end. And then this EQ, the linear phase EQ, I'm going to use to slice out a spot, because if you notice now, it's way too loud and it conflicts with the lead. Now, I could just turn it down, but then it just sounds too quiet. So there's actually a way, I say as I don't know how to do it, to where I could EQ this and slice out a spot for the lead to shine through, despite the fact that we have this at a rather loud volume level. Now, I've only done this well a few times, so this is something that I'm still kind of trying to pick up, because it's like it's one of the things I'm working on in terms of mixes, like slicing out spots. Because a lot of people say, oh, if your lead is mostly in this area, you cut this area in, you know, your chords or something. That is kind of true, and I've been learning lately that it is true, but it's difficult. And so that's kind of what I'm going to try here. I'm going to try to slice out a spot so that we can actually cut out room for our lead, which I should actually name. We'll do main lead. And then it should actually be able to have it at that level, but we're actually kind of just cutting out a spot for it. Now, this is something you don't want to do every time, but there are some cases where, like, you'll find out here, the tone right here that I have with this one is perfect, but the problem I'm running into is it's now either too loud or too quiet, and there's really no in-between, because the in-between, it's basically at the same level as the lead. So that's where we need to slice out a spot. So we're gonna have fun with this. See if I can do this well. So one of the things that we did with boosting with the overtone GEQ was, let me turn this off. We boosted here. Hi, David. Snowman, frog, panda. Yep. I agree. I think we had that one a little too high. Yeah, that was just a little too high. So now we can go back to here and try this again. Now, in terms of kind of thinking about this does make sense, because we'll try this for an experiment. That's where the main body of our sound is. Now we have a lot of flavor up here, and not a lot of, but some things we need down here. But you kind of see, I think it's like, what did we just decide it to be? Kind of around like 500 to 1K. And that's kind of where I'm cutting, except for I'm cutting a little bit earlier here. Just to, because one of the things that'll muddy things up quickly is this area. So I'm just letting it push into there as well, because I foresee that as being a trouble spot later. So now what I'm doing here is I'm trying to add brightness without making it sound like this. So I don't want that sort of sound, and I don't want this sort of sound. I want right here. And I want it subtle enough to where it's just kind of filling out the sound a little more. And that should work. And I might be able to just boost the highs in general as well. And then we'll probably need to turn this back down a little bit, because I was a little too gung-ho saying right off the bat, Yeah, and then we could just pull it up a lot higher. See, they were conflicting before. That does a much better job at giving it space and room to work. So now, I'm just tempted. We're just gonna try this. I'm gonna slap on a Camel Crusher, just to see what happens. Turn off fat mode. Basically just an all-in-one distortion, compression, filter, color. I think they call it like a coloring or tone something. I don't know. And then probably what we'll need to do now is actually cut off some of the lows here. Really doesn't do anything, so I think... Oh, wait, is this one? This one here that we are messing with needs to be turned down a little, I think. Should be better, yeah. And then arguably we could just drop, or not drop it. Just increase the brightness a little. So the density is close, and when I say density, I mean like the amount of stuff here almost sounds like the same amount of stuff here. Now the tone is very different. We're gonna try to remedy that with this one here. So we probably want to reduce some of the bass here, but we want a lot of this right, hold up, right here. That area that we were avoiding a lot before with like almost every synthesizer, almost. The lead kind of has it, but we were doing some cuts like right around at 500, if you remember. Now this is right where we kind of want our pads. Because, like I said, this space kind of fills up, and you need to be careful. Well, I said this space fills up, but this one kind of does as well because it sounds very nasally. And it's just quickly an undesirable sound. So just as much as this is quickly a muddy sound. But in the case, we're actually using this pad to fill up things, so we could kind of assume that we'll be able to use it a little bit here because of the characteristics of this pad. So. Oh, wrong one. I'm on. Supposed to be on this one. This one, yeah. Now I'm tempted to actually just cut out a lot of the lows here. Just to kind of make it so it's just there and we don't have any conflict. There we go. That sounds about good. And then we'll have to balance this in so it kind of matches the. So now the density sounds the same. Now this section is a lot brighter than this section, but the density sounds the same. It doesn't sound like we have a lot more stuff in one side or a lot less stuff in another side or whatever. And that's what we're trying to stray away from, because that's when you're creating new sections for your track. That's one of the easiest things to mess up. And if you mess up the density, then it kind of just sounds like you're moving to a different track. Now one of the things to keep in mind is, great example, Martin Garrix's track "Animals." It's very like the chord progression opens up into something very big. And then the drop is very minimal. It's got like the pluck and the kick, and that's it. And the density remains the same. And the reason it does that is because of the amount of reverb and the type of reverb on the pluck, and also the EQ on the kick drum. So that is what kept the density the same between the two of them. So even though you have like a lot less instruments in the drop than you have in the break, they both sound like they have the same kind of amount of fill to the track as a whole because of the way that they were designed. So that's kind of an example of what I mean, where you could have a section that is minimal and a section that is very busy, but you could keep the density the same between them. So you're EQing it so you kind of fill out the whole frequency spectrum in the right way, but you do it based on the amount of things you have. So like this one here, actually we have 3 synthesizers. 1, 2, 3. To give all that space. Now this one here, on the other hand, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 synthesizers to give us the same amount of density. So that's really, it kind of just shows you there that it's not so much the number is what has to do with density. It's how you fill out the frequency spectrum. What decisions do you make? Like we have, this one is kind of like our tonal whistle that we wanted to lead. This one is all our sharp brightness. This is our punch to that synthesizer as a whole. And this one here is kind of like our drifting background pad. No, wait, no, this one is. This one I've forgotten. Oh, this is our white noise that should be inside here. With that one. Which is also just going to give some bite. That's better. It's just supposed to give some bite to the synthesizer there. Then we have our bright one here, which is our general purpose space filler. Now what I'll probably want to do with these actually is pull them down. Nope. Pull them down just a little. Okay. That's closer. So our lead is a little thin sounding. It doesn't really stand out as much as I'd like it to. But we could actually, well, the easiest way to fix that would just be give me an empty band. There we go. That fixes it. Okay. Well, we've been going for, I think, about an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, hour and 20 minutes. So anybody have any questions they'd like to throw out there? Just so I could do some Q&A before I take off here. Just because I don't want to do this too much longer because I kind of have a sore throat. So I don't want to like run for 2 hours. But any questions before we wrap this up? Or any suggestions? I'm taking suggestions too, believe it or not. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds, minutes here. Probably not minutes, probably a couple seconds here. Just drop some stuff in the chat. Wait for things to catch up. If you have any questions, now is the time. And there's, they could be questions about anything as long as it's remotely related to this channel. Excuse me. I need lunch. Lunch would be good. This is, you use the boomer effects in one of your episodes of Track from Scratch. Where did you get them from? Great question. So you want to go to Logic Pro, download additional content. Where is that? Sound library here. Yeah, they changed it to Sound Library, but you should be able to go to Open Sound Library Manager. Then make sure you have everything, like all of these installed. Like it says here, installed, and then this one says incomplete, so I actually need to update these. Make sure you have all of these, and that'll take up a lot of hard drive space. Then you go to loops here. I don't know why I blanked on that for some reason. Yeah, it's just in loops, and then you just type in boomer, and then you have the handful of these here. Just use. I think they added a few since I last used it. I don't remember though. So that's how you get to the boomer effects. I'm just going to be honest. You probably don't want to use too many of these loops that Logic has, unless you're doing things like I did here with like, what do you call it? Just kind of chopping them up and then mixing them around. Because if you rely too heavily on these, you'll find out that they're actually not all that great quality. And I say not all that great quality as in like, they don't have the best tone to fit with a lot of tracks. Now, in some cases, it's not exactly that way, but for the most part, use these until you could get better samples. Is kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Just because I'm just not a big fan of Logic samples. They kind of sound bland is the best way to describe it, or sometimes. The other kind of vibe I get from them is they sound great by themselves. When you put them in a mix, it's much harder to get them to fit in the mix. So that's what I found. So but yeah, if you just need something quick and you don't have any samples of it, totally use them. But if you actually want a lot of impact effects, I strongly suggest finding sample packs that have those and using those instead, because they'll sound a lot more mainstream and they'll be a lot more what people are used to in terms of the tone of them, and B, you'll have a bigger collection to select from. Okay, so could you analyze a Skrillex song in the future and maybe remake it? Analyzing, possibly. Remake, no. Because one of the things that I've learned is remaking a synthesizer isn't always the best idea. Just because there comes a point where you do so many things to a synthesizer, because especially for dubstep, you're trying to come up with a really unique drop bass sound, and you're like, okay, I just try this and then add this and then add this and then do this and this weird automation, this weird sort of morph thing here, and essentially you get it to the point to where you can't really remake it so it's exactly the same, and you know, so it's kind of like futile to try to remake it. So when it comes to things like that, my suggestion is don't worry about learning to remake those synthesizers. Instead, learn how to be creative and come up with synthesizers that sound completely different, but just as cool. So that's why I wouldn't go so much for remaking a Skrillex song, just because with dubstep, you have that issue of there being just like so many things for a particular synthesizer that is done to just like completely skew it beyond belief, that remaking it, you know, you could pretend to remake it, but you won't have the full impact of the original sound. It'll sound like a thin, half-baked version of it. And when you're doing it that way, basically the only reason you're doing that is to copy the artist that came up with it. It's much better to come up with your own unique synthesizer by kind of like just messing around, trying new things, and then you'll get a full, genuine tone that you really like, but it's a completely different sounding synthesizer. So you just don't want to like skimp on that tone, because it'll sound like the synthesizer from A, B, C, or D, but it just won't cut it in terms of like if you send it to a label, they'd be like, that drop synth is like, sure, it might sound mainstream, but it doesn't have enough to it. It just kind of sounds like, like you used a half-done preset, or you didn't like mix it correctly, because you can't, there comes a point where you can't push a synthesizer. Like after you get that main sound to it, you can't really push it beyond a certain point in terms of getting it to sound tonally exactly the same. And that's just something that's the reason I don't do a lot of remakes, because remakes are kind of futile in that regard, where you can't remake tone. You could remake a sound, but you can't remake a tone, just because tones are unique. Like I showed you here with this synthesizer, this one. I have 3 different EQs, and those all contribute to the tone. If someone used one EQ and did the same sort of EQs that I was doing to this track, it wouldn't have the same sort of impact to it. It'd be missing something. So unless they literally did every single thing I did exactly the same, the tone would be different. Okay, thanks. Are the Logic synths of good enough quality for that, or do you have effects and synths you could recommend? Now, with the introduction of Alchemy, the Logic synthesizers are a lot better, because Alchemy is just a lot better of a synth than ES2 ever was. So Alchemy is pretty darn good. But when you start to get to the point to where you actually feel like tonally you're being held back, like you're like, I can hear the difference between this synth and my synthesizer, and I know kind of what I'd have to do, but this synthesizer just like can't cut it. Like for instance, when if I were to just get a square in this synthesizer and a square in SynthMaster, then they'd sound different. And it depends on what use case you're looking for. But there'll come a point when you realize that a square is not enough. You need a certain tone of square. And when you get to that point, I strongly suggest, yes, go out, get different synths. And my first general purpose recommendation, whenever people ask what synth to get, it's always SynthMaster, because the tone is just gorgeous. It's totally amazing what comes out of this thing. And it's also extremely affordable. That's the other thing, because there's this one that I've been looking at that it has great tone, but it's stinking expensive. So this one you could get as low as $30 for this whole thing, as low as $30 if you're a student. If you're not a student, I think it goes as low as $50 or $60. So I'll drop in the chat. The people that are watching my videos could probably just find it otherwise, but I'll drop in the chat the link to where you can get it. And I strongly suggest don't get it now, because you don't really need it now. Get it when it's actually like they have a sale. So right now they have a 20% off coupon if you subscribe to the newsletter. They pretty much always have some sort of sale going. but let's see, what would that make it? That'd mean that right now the factory version is $80 and the academic version is some like $40 or $50. So so it's still a good deal, but through February. Oh no, the preset banks are discounted. Yeah. So so they almost always have a sale going, which is great, and it's they're always adding new features as well. But yeah, so that one, it gets insanely cheap for having such a beautiful tone, so that's why I recommend it. But otherwise, there are some big names out there that you could go for pretty easily. Like Spire is one of the ones I've been looking at, and it has great tone, but it's kind of expensive. That one, if you are into dubstep, Spire is probably for you. I think this is the right one. Is it Spire? Yeah. No? Yeah. No. Wait. Spire. Synth. Yeah. Nope. Sorry, wrong one. It's not Spire. It's Serum. Serum. Synth. Yeah, Serum is the one for all you dubstep people, I think. Yes. It's actually pretty cool. Let me pop this out. It looks really neat. This one has amazing stuff for dubstep. You'll totally want to get this if you do dubstep. And this is just so cool. I haven't gotten it myself, but I've listened to a lot of stuff, like a lot of the presets, and they've got some pretty solid sounding presets by way of tone. So that one, and then there's a whole bunch out there. You could just Google like top synthesizers or top AU synths, and you'll find out ones, tons of them there that you could just check out, but most of them are pretty expensive. So that's why I suggest Synthmaster so much, because it has great tone and it's pretty darn cheap. But yeah, by way of effects are just kind of something that you'll find randomly. Like you'll be like, oh, that looks like, you'll just be looking for effects and you'll stumble across something, and you'll like the sound of it and you'll pick it up. One of the things that I found, by way of effects, distortion effects, I strongly suggest, like right off the bat, grab where is it? Camel Audio Camel Crusher. You can find it on Splice, and it's a free plugin, and it's great for quick distortion and quick compression. Really good thing to check out there. And like I said, it's free, so grab it. And I strongly consider the Vox & Go Overtone GEQ an effect, because it's kind of like a distortion and EQ in one. You won't be able to tell it so much at first, but it is a great tool to have in your arsenal. Once again, also free. DJM filter, that's just if you want like the classic DJM 900 sort of filter sound. That's kind of what this is, but I haven't used it all that much because in my opinion, it's not production quality. Like there's a few things to it that just kind of make it so I wouldn't just slap it on my master bus and use it whenever, because of the way that works. But and then otherwise you'll just kind of find things that are that you kind of catch your eye and you're willing to try out. Really, I don't have a lot of external like effects for like chopping or delay or reverb or things like that, like traditional effects. Mostly I just use the ones in Logic, because the distortion and reverb. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. Don't get another reverb. Space Designer is pretty much more than enough you'll ever need. And if you find that you actually really need a new reverb, you'll probably get something like, I want to say, can't remember the name of it, but it's like the Reverb Company. And they're like the top name in reverb. Why can't I remember? Reverb. Lexicon, that's what it is. Lexicon reverbs are the top names out there. So that's like the reverb in Logic is by far one of the best reverbs I've ever run across. FL Studio cannot hold a candle to it in any regard. And I've tried to find free ones for FL Studio, and none of them can match Space Designer. So, and then modulation, Logic has great modulation plugins. Probably don't need to worry too much about those. And yeah, so the only other thing I'd say is if you wanted to get like gating, which is kind of like making things stutter, or splicing, where you could kind of just do tons of weird things to sounds, like what's that one by Isotope? It's like Isotope Trash or something like that. I don't remember. But that's another one you might want to check out if you want like weird effects. So, but yeah, for the most part, I don't use a lot of those because I don't do dubstep or things in that genre so much. So I don't have a lot of effects suited for that. Mostly I go for like external compressors, external EQs and stuff like that. So this is Tau filter. I think this is just like a filter plugin. Oh, I do not remember at all how to work with this, but yeah, it's just a filter with its own tone. I don't ever really use that one. And then limiter number 6, when you start to get into mastering, you'll definitely want that, because the compressors in Logic are good and limiters are good, but not for mastering. For mastering, Logic is not capable for that. So when you start to get into mastering, you can worry about that. Vox and Go has amazing plugins. Strongly suggest you check those out. They have a whole bunch of free ones. I think I grabbed almost all of them. And other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. W1 limiter is a decent limiter. If you kind of want an alternative limiter, just like I said, it kind of gets a different tone. IK Multimedia here. The only reason I have this is for TR meter, which is free. The rest of this stuff is actually all paid, and it adds it anyway, but you can't access it, which is really annoying. I should just remove it from the list. But TR meter allows you to, it's just kind of like a great meter for mastering. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, one of the things that I am giving you these just in case, you actually need a lot of these, but don't get too caught up in just getting new plugins, because new plugins are fun. But I found actually what I did was, I was trying out a lot of plugins like Massive and Sylenth and stuff like that. And then I kind of went back to raw, just what Logic had, and like nothing else except for Logic. And then I started slowly adding plugins, and I found that was a much better approach, because you're like, okay, I really need this sort of distortion unit, or I really need this sort of A, B, C, D. And you could feel yourself being held back instead of just like, okay, my plugins aren't good enough. When you can actually feel yourself being held back, that's when you should start adding things. One of the things I don't have that I would like to mention as well is there's this really overused plugin called Sausage Fattener. And as much as I hate to say it, it's overused for a reason. And it does do great things for making things sound fatter. I mean, go figure. But just be careful not to use it on every single track. That's one of the things that you'll do with Camel Crusher as well. Camel Crusher and Sausage Fattener are just plugins that you'll be like, it'll be too easy for you to just drop them on everything. So be careful about those. But they are, like I said, they're great plugins. I use one instance of Camel Crusher here, and I think otherwise I've kept it out of this project just because of the nature of this project. Yeah. Might have actually done this on my kick. Did I put it on my kick? Nope. I didn't put it on my kick. Sometimes I put Camel Crusher on parts of my kick. But yeah, when I first got Camel Crusher, I was putting it on everything. So be careful about that. But like I said, plugins, it's not plugins. The whole idea of production is very, very strongly centered around the idea of don't add something unless you know why you're adding it. Now, when you're just getting started, I don't suggest you completely go by that, because you do need to experiment. You need to try things and figure out how they work out. But when you get to the point to where you're like just adding something on everything, that's usually not a good call. So just be careful in that regard a little bit, and you should be dandy. But okay, so if that's it for questions, I noticed a few people have popped into the stream since. I am ending the stream. Apologies right now for the people that are just jumping in. But if anybody else has any other questions they'd like to ask, so they don't have to wait a whole nother week before they can get their questions answered, please drop them really quick here. I'll wait just a few more seconds here, just to give you guys a chance. But otherwise, yeah, anything's fair game. Ask questions before we take off. I'll pop up sausage fattener just to kind of show you guys. It's one of the things on my list of things to buy. I need to buy this pretty soon here, but I don't have enough money. I'm saving up for other stuff and investing and trying to just get my financial stuff in order, so I can't be splurging on plugins and samples right now. But this is sausage fattener, and it has 3 knobs: fatness, color, and gain. But it's like, it's so simple yet it's so great, and it's kind of funny too because let's see if I could. Nah, I'm not gonna play that. But it's kind of funny because as you turn some of the knobs, his face changes. But it's like really corny, and you'd think like it's a joke plugin, and in some ways it kind of is. Like this you could kind of like sum up Electro House with this plugin. Like, a lot of people say, oh, you just have to do, just get a synthesizer preset or synthesizer loop and then drop sausage fattener on it. That's kind of all you have to do. But realistically, there's more to it. But it's a great plugin. It's overused, but it's kind of like, it's a great way to stereotype EDM, and for a good reason. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So, I believe that we'll be wrapping up this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining. I apologize, those of you that just came in now and we're wrapping up. You might not have gotten the message. Stream is now at 11 a.m. Pacific time, so you guys now know. There's a video up, so I shouldn't need to announce it too much in too many places, but people will catch on sooner or later. And I've been surprised, actually. I looked at some statistics, and apparently, even though it says right now 6 of you are watching, apparently over the duration of the stream, like 50 people drop in. And that's pretty cool. I mean, even if they're only like stepping in for a couple seconds just to kind of see what's going on, there's like 50 people. That's pretty good. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for showing up. It's really great to have you guys. It's really great to hear your questions and feedback and comments and everything like that. But anyway, I will see you guys pretty soon in the next video, next stream, whatever here. Bye.